Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard my colleague, the Russian ambassador, explaining to you the process of the negotiations that took place and which resulted in the adoption today by the Council of its resolution on the Syrian crisis. I fully adhere to what the Russian ambassador said, and I would like to add some additional remarks. Number one, the Syrian government is of the opinion that the ball now is in the camp of those who are supporting the armed groups in Syria. These governments and parties should get involved in respecting the letter and the spirit of the six-point plan of Mr. Kofi Annan. Number two, double standards and double language will not be sufficient to prove the credibility of those who are manipulating the armed groups, supporting them, hosting them, training them, and pushing them towards committing further violence in Syria. 50 violations took place in 24 hours only, since yesterday. Many assassinations and many sabotage operations against public and private facilities. Number three, it has been very indicative in the statements of some members in the Council, very indicative and very alarming actually, when we heard from these members of the Council a totally unpleasant language, provocative language, irresponsible language while talking about the Syrian government. I'm saying this because it was really astonishing to hear ambassadors entrusted with maintaining peace and security, entrusted with the fulfillment and implementation of this very important plan of 6 points of Mr. Kofi Annan, using the term of regime while talking about the Syrian government. This is a bad sign. This is a bad sign. I think this explains the real bad intentions of their countries. And under such circumstances, these same states and countries and governments should assume the consequences of their acts towards putting an end to the violence, cessation of violence in Syria, as well as towards fully implementing the provisions of the plan. Number four, Syria celebrates its National Day on April the 17th of every year, as I indicated to my French colleague in my statement. It's really unfortunate and bizarre and weird and unacceptable that Paris will host a meeting on the same day, April the 17th, to strengthen the sanctions imposed against Syria and decided in the so-called meeting of Friends of Syria in Istanbul. We need responsible governments to deal with us. This is a very serious matter. We need good intentions. We need to see deeds, not only words, from the capitals involved in solidifying the Syrian crisis rather than extinguishing the fire. Number five, those who claimed in their statements that they were in favor of the quick implementation of the plan are the same ones who are still providing Israel with the nuclear submarines capable of launching nuclear warheads are the same who are protecting the Israeli campaign of settlement in the Arab-occupied territories, including the Golan, the Syrian Golan, Jerusalem. The same powers who claim being defensor of the Syrian people's freedom are helping Israel to run away from its obligations for peace, for achieving genuine, just peace based on the United Nations resolutions 242, 338, and 497, plus the provisions of the Arab Peace Initiative. So here we have we are dealing with a kind of hypocrisy, and as far as my government is concerned, and although the resolution does not satisfy us fully, we inform Mr. Annan that we will be on board, provided that the other parties would respect also the provisions of the 6 points plan. And actually we are right now calling on Mr. Kofi Annan to return General Mode back to Damascus to finalize the negotiations on the protocol that will regulate the mission of the early advance team of the observers. I'm in your hands.
أعلم أن لديكم بعض التحفظات عليه لكنكم قبلتموه، فما هي أهم التحفظات التي لديكم على هذا القرار؟
التقييم النهائي سيترك للعاصمة دمشق، وهي التي ستدلي بالتقييم النهائي حول هذا الموضوع.
لكن ما هو تقييمكم حاليا كيف؟
أنا قلت في بياني أمام مجلس الأمن أن حكومتي بالرغم من أنه لديها ملاحظات حول القرار، ولكنها ستتعامل مع كوفي عنان لتطبيقه، ونتوقع من الأطراف الأخرى بما في ذلك الحكومات التي تمول وتدرب وتسلح وتحمي وتهيج المجموعات المسلحة أن تفعل الشيء نفسه.
About General Mood, I'm sure you heard what Ambassador Churkin said. He seemed to think that he said that a Russian diplomat had gone to Kofi Annan's office in Geneva and been told that Mr. Mood's or General Mood's return should not be anticipated. What's behind this? It seems like he left in a hurry, and it ended up with Ambassador Churkin saying, you know, there are other people that could go. But I'd like to know the Syrian government's view of why he left and what this seemingly strange standoff is about.
I trust what Ambassador Churkin said. I wasn't there. However, I trust what Ambassador Churkin said, and I think that as far as we are concerned, my government called on Mr. Kofi Annan to bring back General Mood to Damascus with his technical team to continue the negotiations with their Syrian counterparts in order to finalize the negotiations on the provisions of the protocol. What happened is that the team was in Damascus actually, then our minister had to leave for Moscow on an official visit, and in between General Mood left the capital with his team. So our minister came back the day after from Moscow to see that the team is not in Damascus. So we were not able to continue our negotiations with the team, and this explains what Ambassador Churkin was saying. So the Syrian government is waiting to see General Mood and the technical team to be back in Damascus, to re-engage in the negotiations in order to finalize the provisions of the protocol. Yes.
Two men who were arrested for murdering one of your religious leaders.
The son of the Mufti, yes.
Had been paid $800 for every
each one, yes, for each crime.
And who had paid the $800?
The money usually comes from outside, from some circles, Salafi and Wahhabi circles outside of Syria. And Syria actually needs support needs cooperation, genuine support, genuine cooperation in order to implement this plan. The Syrian people do not need $12 million from Mr. Obama to buy some communication stuff and anti-ballots gilets. The Syrian people need to lift these sanctions on Syria, imposed on Syria illegally, unilaterally, and because these sanctions are the real problem. They are costing Syria billions of dollars. And the funny part of the story is that the European Union imposed sanctions on the Minister of Electricity in Syria because he is doing his job very well. This is why they are imposing on him their sanctions. This is ridiculous. Thank you.